So good morning, and we're going to talk about autopsy. So we've created an autopsy installer. So if you do have any issues opening up autopsy, I know every once in a while people were getting a Java error or just couldn't open up. We do have a pre-built installer in, or right after you do a power up. Once you do a power up, you should then see autopsy installer in the command line. Once you run that, it's going to ask for your password for CSI. This is going to download autopsy, was it 4.20.0, and then it's going to install it. So it's downloading, making sure all the dependencies are installed, making a few changes, and then it's going to run it for the first time. And you should see a pop-up box once it's done. So this does take a little bit of time, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so depending on what your internet speed is, of course it's going to be a little bit slower. The autopsy download is a little bit over a gig. So right now what it did was it downloaded the autopsy .zip file into a temp folder, and now it's checking some prerequisites. It's installing those right now. And then once it's done, because it's in the temp folder, next time you reboot, it's going to get rid of that 1 gig file, so we don't need it anymore. So again, it's still going through the update, upgrades for autopsy content. Right now it's unzipping the autopsy folder into opt/autopsy, and then autopsy-4.20.0. It is going to move that, or the content from the autopsy 4.20, move it back into the autopsy folder, because that's where we're basing all the content anyway. So it is going to overwrite the old version of autopsy. And that's just mainly to make sure that all the scripts work in the back end for the case management as well. Now it's verifying. It made sure that the content was set up properly, that the application is going to be looking for the right Java. This does take a little bit of a minute. It's moving the content, and then once it starts running autopsy, it'll run that automatically. We should hopefully see a pop-up box here in just a second. So that box, sometimes when you run autopsy the first time, you can't see it because of the splash page. So we added the tac no splash so we can see it. And here essentially we say it stores data about each case in a central repository. Going back to what we were talking about in previous videos, whenever you run it from this icon down here, this central repository actually gets reset and stored into the case folder individually. So each case, it's going to have its own central repository. So go and hit OK. And then once we hit OK, we should see autopsy 4.20 open up for the first time, or whatever version is going to be updated. So we do plan on, every time that they do an update, testing the script and then attempting to install the newest version. If there are any issues with the newest version, we will stay back with the one that we know works. So go and close out of here. Close out of this window. And there we go. You should be able to use that same script on pretty much any Debian or Ubuntu system. Again, depends on what version of Ubuntu you have, what access it has to the dependencies. There is a term in Linux called dependency hell. So that essentially means that sometimes dependencies are broken. You may have older ones or newer ones are not compatible with certain versions, certain applications. But all in all, this will allow you to, again, if you have any issues with autopsy opening, period, this should resolve that. And if you did want to migrate from autopsy 4.18 to 4.20, that 4.20.0 came out in January 2023, this is the way to do it.